some pretty good rains continue to be an issue there. And again, it looks like that's still going to be the case as time goes along. In fact, look at Yonkers here. Some pretty good rains there, and heavy rains continuing back down towards the Morristown area. We've seen this this band sort of continue to advance towards the west. We zoom in a little further. Heavy rain down to Staten Island right now, continuing towards the east as we'll scan the radar. We were watching, of course, that rain band where Antoine Lewis was out there by Hicksville, and he seems to me he's getting it right now for sure as that area continues to move along, and we'll again watch that rain come from right off the Atlantic Ocean, that feeder band. Here's that little lull that we saw, but it starts to fill in off to the south here. In fact, I'm going to take a wider view, and you can see that second spiral band here that's now moving in through much of southern New Jersey. This will again tend to fill in and rotate northward as the storm itself makes that move in towards the area. So let's see if we can take a little closer view here and find where that eye is. Yeah, pretty much right down in this fashion here. You can see the little gap in the little radar. See that little swirl down there? We're going to get a little closer view of it, and we'll see if we can identify the eye a little bit better. Yeah, right about in there. That's about where that hits the eye would be. So it's paralleling right. That's right off the shore of Ocean City, Maryland. We get advancing on towards the north. Okay, further on we go. How about the rainfall? Wow, look at these numbers that are going on. We got some time to check these out because it is really a good soaking as we're going on to the south of town here. In fact, when I do some of these values, there's South Plainfield 1 3/4 inches, Edison 2 1/4. There's the southern part of Staten Island, about 1.5 inches has already fallen there. To our west here, Elizabeth, up towards Newark, about 1.35 inches of rain there. And let's see here. We're going to get, just want to try to get this to move up. I just saw some real brighter colors starting to appear as we get towards the Freehold area. So let's see how much rain we have appearing in that area now. There you go, 3.63. That's a lot. And there's Belmar, Asbury Park area. Pretty good rains there, 3.36, 3.63. So that's, again, some very intense rainfall amounts that have been found there. And as we go further south, again, we've seen some real high numbers as you move into southern sections of New Jersey. We'll move through Barnegat down towards Atlantic City. Again, they've gotten into that lull, but they're getting back into that rain right now. So as we take a look at some of the rainfall totals there, about 4 1/4 inches of rain just to the west of Atlantic City. Okay, on we go towards the next issue with this, the storm surge. That's going to be tomorrow morning. We're again dealing with a Category 1 storm, so that surge about 4 to 5 feet. Looks like that's going to verify. I was looking at some of the data coming in from down around Chesapeake Bay, and they had about a 4 to 5 foot storm surge down there when Irene made its closest approach, and the same basically reported along the Carolina coastline there. So that's looking to be what we're going to see, I think, here in this area. In fact, again, this will be tomorrow morning as the water gets piled up along the coastline. That's really what the storm surge is. It's like a plow that the hurricane pushes ahead of it with water, and it has nowhere else to go but sort of bump up against along the coastline with that strong east to southeast wind that'll be accompanying the hurricane. So 3 to 7 foot storm surge south shore of Long Island, same as you get down to the Jersey Shore. And then look at this little area here as you get into lower New York Harbor and down towards Staten Island and the western edge of Long Island. Those numbers are a little bit higher because the water has a smaller area to go, and it just kind of gets funneled in here. We've got to watch the back bays too. I haven't really been talking too much about that, but the back bays here in New Jersey, as you get back in here towards the western part of Staten Island and some of the back bays here into Long Island, there's going to be some significant flooding that could occur there. And then as the storm goes a little further along, we get sort of a secondary surge because that water in western Long Island then sort of funnels right back on down here. So those of you, again, along the northern part of Queens here, Whitestone, Willets Point, that area, the lower part of the Bronx, might see that point of flooding occur there as we move on in through that high tide cycle. And then the wind could be another factor. As we move higher in elevation, the buildings could be affected. The wind will increase in altitude because there's less friction. So as you get up to a 30-story building or higher, you could have a 20% increase in wind speed, meaning a 70-mile-per-hour wind is going to be more like an 84-mile-per-hour wind. And at 80 stories or higher, that could be as much as a 90-mile-per-hour wind. So keep that in mind. Stay away from those windows, particularly tomorrow morning. Christina?
All right, Nick, thank you so much. Wow, a lot of information to consider right now as Irene bears down on us. Let's go right now to Manhattan Beach in Brooklyn. That's where our chief political correspondent, Dick Brennan, is standing by with the conditions there. As you know, Manhattan Beach, a low-lying area, mandatory evacuation orders underway there. That's Zone A. Dick, looks like it's really coming down.
Yeah, we've had a lot of heavy rain. Nick talks about those heavy bands. We're getting a big blast of those heavy bands. Let's just show you a little bit. Down the road here, you can see Route 78 Shore Parkway. That's very quiet. There's nothing going on there. And then if we just spin around here, we're getting a swirling of rain here. It comes in drabs. It's very heavy. And then all of a sudden you get a big, almost a swirl where it seems that and it hits you very hard in the face too. It seems like the winds go up very quickly to maybe 30, 40 miles an hour and then die down very quickly. But an absolute enormous amount of rain falling just in the last hour or so, we can tell you. Now, as Nick was talking about this flood zone, we are in this evacuated area. Just look at the way the rain is hitting on the ground there and the wind is blowing it. This is a flood zone. It is a Zone A. Now, if you get a Cat 1, if you look at these storm maps, they call them slosh maps. If you look at them, this area, which is sort of the peninsula, which includes Manhattan Beach, it includes Coney Island, it includes Seagate, this peninsula in a Cat 1 storm surge of, let's say, 15 feet or more, would be severely inundated. That's why the mayor said that this place has to be evacuated. Now, evacuated, really? We were here going throughout this whole peninsula around 4 or 5 o'clock this evening, and you would never get the impression that it had been evacuated. Now, it's quite possible a lot of people got out of here, but I can tell you it looked pretty much as business as usual, except for a couple of things. Number one, the store owners had pretty much shut down for business. There were a couple of diners and a couple of guys at the mobile station. I got a shout out to the mobile guy around the corner. He says he's going all night. So if you need gas, there's gas right around the corner from here. And then, if you go down a little further, there's a diner. There's always a diner that wants to hang out and serve people. And all the folks here at the Best Western have been really nice, too. I can tell you this, though. In the next couple of hours, you can look at the way the trees are moving. It almost looks like tropical wind blowing. This isn't the strong stuff, according to Nick. We haven't seen the real tough stuff, the real wind, and that's when they say, and if you've been in these things before, when the wind gets horizontal, the rain almost feels like little pellets. One of the enjoyment you do get, at least out of these storms, is they're warm. You know, if you're in a blizzard in these conditions, sometimes blizzard conditions are similar, the snow starts to hit your face and it's very cold, but it has a sort of strange effect here because we're actually pretty warm. And if we come down here, the branches, they're not exactly flying off the trees yet, but this is just a small little sampling of what's happening. And you remember the mayor, the last 3 or 4 days, we've been hearing him talk. He's been talking about what's going to happen when these branches start jamming up the gratings and then the floods start happening. We're not even close to the flood area just yet. Nick said the surge would be in the morning. A lot of people didn't take this surge seriously, but you know what, folks? If you've seen some hurricanes before, surges can come way in. We had the Express of 1938, which really cut an inlet out on Long Island in Suffolk County. That's how strong these storms are. That was measured somewhere between Cat 2, I think maybe Cat 3. We're getting Nick for the exact. But even a Cat 1 can cause great flooding here. And I can tell you, though, right now, a lot of people say they're going to batten down the hatches. They're going to stick with it. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, even in the few minutes we've been on, all of a sudden the rain just slowed down ever so slightly. You know, I don't think we've gotten any of those tornadoes Nick was talking about. We saw them, we were down in Katrina. You could see tornadoes develop in really severe areas, and they kind of come in tiny little bits on the tops of trees. As Nick says, it's not like Dorothy in Kansas. They develop out of nowhere. But you hear a lot of strange sounds when you're around here, too. Part of it is just the wind whipping. Part of it is you hear things that are battering that weren't battened down like we were warned to do. And all of a sudden you hear this banging. You're saying, what was that? Was it thunder? It might have been thunder, too. So the important thing is to be safe. Let's just spin around, Angela, one more time. I've seen maybe only 1 or 2 cars go by here. People are heeding the warnings. And let's face it, folks, we are hours away from the really tough stuff. So far, at least, the people in this neighborhood tell me that when they get really heavy rain, and let's face it, folks, we've seen a lot of heavy rain, at least just in August, that these roads don't flood terribly. It's only when you got to worry about the water coming up. That's what we may be worrying about in the next couple of hours. We're going to be watching it very carefully, and hopefully I'll have another, what do you think, Christine? You think we're getting ready for raincoat number 2, or am I jumping the gun here, or what?
I think it's about time to switch it out, Dick. And take
really?
the addition of your rain pants as well. It's surprising that not a lot of people seem to have heeded the mandatory evacuation order with the diner open behind you and the mobile gas station. Any chance you remember what the price of gas was there?
I think the gas was pretty reasonable. I don't think they were gouging at all. They were good guys. They were very straightforward, and I think that's been the case all along here. No one's trying to, get anything out of this. We're here on our own, obviously. We're not supposed to. It is an evacuation.